Hello, everyone. Welcome to LDS Women Thriving. I'm here today with my good friend Sofia Paredes, and we were roommates in college, and I've been with her throughout the last many years. And she has a really awesome story to share with you. So I'm going to introduce her to you. Sofia was born in Provo, Utah, and grew up in Bentonville, Arkansas. She's the oldest of four children. Growing up, she enjoyed soccer, color guard, dance, and volunteering at the Roger Humane Society as a puppy socializer. She served a mission in Sacramento, California, where she loved that she loves elotes. I love those too. So good. And after her mission, she went to BYUI and served in many student support programs. She graduated with a bachelor's in marriage and family studies. Later, she went on to get her master in public administration, and she now works at a nonprofit serving those experiencing homelessness. Sophia's one of a kind. I am very grateful to have her on. So
Oh, thank you.
awesome. All right. And then, do you have anything else you'd add to that? Or does that sum it up for you?
Nope, I just barely graduated, so yay! We're
Just
done.
getting the
So
party
happy to be done.
started. So
Yes.
awesome. So, some things that Sophia has been through these last few years have been a little bit difficult, but you've made it so far. I would love if you could share your story with us discovering and learning to live with POTS syndrome.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should start kind of at the beginning. So some people ask me all the time, like, was there any indication when you were young that you had POTS? And I'm like, not that I can remember. There was only one incident that maybe was an indication, maybe not. I remember being, I think it was like 12 or 13, decided to run a 5K with my mom, and I had to stop halfway through just because I couldn't breathe and I was feeling kind of lightheaded. Um, Back then, I thought it was due to, like, I didn't eat much or I hadn't drank enough water. Um, but now I sit there and I'm like, maybe it was. Maybe it was POTS. I have no idea. But I think the the one sign that really stood out to me, or the one time that I was like, okay, there's definitely something wrong. So I was at BYU, Idaho. I was walking up to a class. I was walking up this really big hill to get to the class when all of a sudden my vision went black and I woke up and I was on the ground. And some kind strangers came over to, like, help me, and they sat me up and they gave me water and such. And they're like, "Do you need to call an ambulance or something?" I was like, "I don't think so." I was like, I think I just passed out. That was so weird. And um, then a week later, I did it again. Um, and that's when I began to realize that maybe this wasn't just a one time event. Maybe this was actually something I should start looking into. But the hard part about it was that it was so sporadic and I couldn't tell what triggered it or anything. That when I would go to doctors and start talking about it, they would just, they'd be like, well, we can do this or we can try this. And one even was like, it's probably just your anxiety or something. I'm like, I know my anxiety. I don't think it's that. But no one really had an indication of what was going on. But at the worst point, um, I was passing out like maybe, I want to say like 4 to 5 times a, a month. Um, I began to lovingly call it my fainting goat syndrome or my damsel in distress syndrome because we had no idea what it was. But I think what was really hard was that I used to be like an avid hiker. I loved to go dancing. I loved all sorts of outdoor activities, sports, all of it. And all of a sudden, I would run around for a short while, and like 5 minutes in, I'm feeling lightheaded, or I go on these hikes and I'd have to sit down for long periods of time. And sometimes, even when I got back, I would not be able to move afterwards. And my friends were always so kind and like were super loving and super understanding. I'm like, I'm sorry, and I'd be like crying. I'm like, sorry, I'm so dramatic, and they're like, it's just the condition you have. You're fine. I'm like, don't worry, don't apologize. And but I was so embarrassed about the fact that if they were to take me out with them or do anything with them that had even a remote bit of like physical exertion, then they had to worry about me possibly passing out or at
Hmm.
minimum just being super lethargic. And I can't tell you how many of my guy friends had to carry me to the car or something like that. And I was
Damsel
just
in
like, I'm just
distress
the official
syndrome.
psychopath. Yeah, yep. This damsel in distress syndrome. I'm like, oh, yeah. So,
Oh man.
so
And if you could explain for everyone that's listening, what is POTS syndrome? What does it entail? Now that you know what it is, what is it?
yeah, I have to remember what the acronym actually stands for. It's postural or static tachycardia. I think that's what it's called. I probably got the wrong, but either way. But basically, what it is that well, they're still learning so much about it. Mine in specific, what they think it is that my blood, basically, when you stand up or you're running or something like that, your blood pressure will elevate while your heart rate is elevating as well. Mine instead, my blood pressure goes up, or sorry, my heart rate goes up, but my blood pressure either stays the same or even drops. And so then my heart is working double time to try and get oxygen and blood up to my head when all of it's pooling down at my feet. So if I stand up too fast, I can get super lightheaded. If I'm exercising and all the blood is pooling down to my legs, I can get lightheaded. I'm in danger of passing out. Salt and like Gatorade and stuff are my best friends. My doctor literally says like you can have all the salt you want. And I was like, done deal, fries with it. And he's like, no, that's not what I meant. But
That's
yeah.
funny. Oh man, that's crazy. And now that you know what it is has that been helpful to have that knowledge and now you can just manage it?
Yeah. So yeah, it definitely has been a relief to know what it is because for the first 3 years that this was all happening, um, they had no diagnosis for me. And I started to feel like I was crazy and that I was making it up. And there were so many times where I tried to push through it,
Mm-hmm.
um, and kind of deny that it was there because since we didn't know what it was, and I didn't want people to think I was crazy, I would
Yeah.
just push through it, and that usually did not end very well. So, and then I would need help from people and such, and yeah, it was super difficult during those first 3 years that I had no idea. So having a diagnosis and now having like a medical note that I can bring with me and be like, no, actually, I do have an actual condition. I'm not crazy. I'm not trying to like bring attention to myself. This is just something that I deal with. And then also as well, um, I had a roommate when I got diagnosed who had POTS. And when she was describing it to me, I was like, that kind of sounds like what I have. And then when I found a doctor, she actually referred me to a doctor. And he did some certain
Wow.
tests with me. And he's like, oh, heck yeah. You definitely have POTS. And it's actually one of the worst cases I've seen thus far.
That's a miracle
Mm.
that you were able to. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Truly.
So
I feel like that's how God works sometimes. Lets us struggle a little bit and then eventually the answers will come.
Yeah.
in a
I
way.
seriously
In
think if it weren't for her, I would not have gotten a diagnosis. I'd still be trying to figure out what's going on with me.
and that's such a
So,
hard place to be when you're just in the limbo and you don't know what is going on. Yeah. For you, what has been some of the most difficult moments and experiences in this journey?
um, I think admitting that I need help has been the most difficult. Like, for example, I was an FSY coordinator. Loved my time as an FSY coordinator. Definitely some hard times, definitely some amazing times. But I think what was really hard is that sometimes as an FSY coordinator, you don't get sleep. The session
Nope.
never sleeps, so you don't sleep.
A whole
And it
summer you don't sleep.
aggravates. Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. But so it aggravates my symptoms actually. And I remember one night, like I was on week 3 and I still had like 5 more weeks to go. Um, there was just one day where I was trying to run around, do everything, and all of a sudden it started hitting, and I was like, please no, no, not right now. Like, I got to get all of this done. I can't leave my coach stranded. I can't leave my team stranded. Like, I was like, these people depend on me. And it just hit, and there was nothing I could do. And I remember them taking me back to my dorm that I was staying in. I remember staring at the ceiling and just asking the question of why me, why this? I'm like, I'm trying to do a good thing. I'm trying to serve you by serving your children and your youth, and I'm like, and now I I can't do it, and I'm like, and they're going to be constantly having to take care of me during these next few weeks. Um, and I remember feeling just this heavy weight on my chest and just almost like this realization. I think I was kind of in denial up to that point that this would go away at some point. This was fixable. And
Yeah.
that if I just exercised or, you know, ate right and uh, just there was going to be some magic fix that something would just click and then I would be totally fine and I could do everything that everyone else was doing. And I think it was in that moment that I realized that there was no quick fix to this, and it was very, very likely that this would be the rest of my life. I won't lie, the rest of that week was kind of miserable, just having that
Yeah.
thought and just kind of grieving who I was before. There was this whole grief process, and it wasn't just that week. I had like ups and downs. And that's why the great thing is that you're like in a spiritual environment, you're helping people. So there's moments of really great joy. So when I wasn't thinking so much about my pots, I had great moments. But when I came home and wasn't surrounded by that environment, that's when the huge depressive wave kicked in. And my heart was broken and I was grieving over who I used to be. I would, try to go do certain things that I used to do. I would go try going dancing, or a friend would invite me on a hike and I'd try and go. And again, I felt like I was back when I first learned that I had some sort of condition without knowing what it was. Um, but I was back in that space of where I'm like trying to figure out what I could do and what I couldn't do, and in denial that this was this was my reality. And I fought with some deep depression due to my chronic illness for about a good 6 to 8 months. There was the highs and lows, but it definitely, like, the depression was there.
So hard. I have interviewed a bunch of different people on this podcast, and there's been some that have had chronic conditions their whole lives. But it's been interesting to see that there are some that, just like you, had almost, you would say, normal life before, and then a moment of where things change. And then those people have had to go through quite the grieving process. And for every person, it's different. Sometimes it looks like you're angry, and then you're depressed, and you're sad, and then ultimately acceptance and adjusting your life, realizing this is what I, this is my life now. And that's a painful thing to go through. No one likes to go through that. And you almost
Yeah,
have to give
no, it's
yourself time and
definitely,
patience with yourself.
oh, it's so my favorite.
What would you tell someone that's in the middle of discovering what they have and just starting the grieving process of what used to be?
Yeah, I think like I think the grieving process is different for everyone. I think some people manifest it more in anger, some with more sadness. So, and you know, the different periods that you go through are different, and as well as sometimes like you could go through the grieving cycle, and then all of a sudden something hits that reminds you that you have this, and you go through it again, and
It's
it
true.
stinks. Um, but I think what I would say, I can only speak from my experience, but the thing I think that really pulled me out was I just glued myself to the temple. Like, because in that place, nobody knew about my pods. Like, nobody knew about my different struggles. We were just all the same. And I felt part of a community where I wasn't burdening anyone, but also, like, I felt accepted in there by God. Like, I just felt him closer, and I felt like he was like, I don't care that you have pods, like, you're still my daughter. I love you. And like you are going to still, I think the biggest thing was the thought of like you are still going to reach your potential. Like I planned for this. Like just because you have this doesn't mean you're going to reach your potential, because I already, it was all in the works. So don't even worry
Yeah.
about it. I'm like, okay. But I think that was always like something in the back of my head that honestly drove a lot of that depressive period, was that I'm not going to be who I wanted to be, or I'm not going to reach my full potential, and I'm going to just be a burden the rest of my life to people. But I feel like as I went to the temple, and especially like allowed people to serve me, um, I think that's also why maybe I have this, is because I'm very prideful and I don't like letting people serve me. But and then the Lord was like, fine, force reset. Yeah, you're gonna let people serve you now. I'm like, okay, cool. But I think because of that, like having people help me, it built a community for me. Um, and it built like empathy. I think not just for them, but me to them, because I think because they saw how hard I was struggling, and my struggle is very visible, they felt comfortable kind of confiding in me their personal struggles and things that they were dealing with. And I think as soon as they started confiding in me and I was able to have those type of connections, I was like, oh my gosh, we're all just human. And life just sometimes sucks, but it's okay, because God knows what he's doing, and he put us with people to uplift and help each other. And so it became kind of like my mission to help other people see like their potential and their worth despite what they're going through. I'm like, I don't care if you inflict it upon yourself or if it's just something that was put upon you. Like you still can reach, like you still will reach your potential if you decide to let God prevail in your life.
That's beautiful. Thanks, Sophia. And I'm sure those listening can understand, with something that's going on in their lives, some kind of trial, that The temple is what will bring you closest to the Lord. And that you can't really judge. Everybody has their struggles, and you have to look to the Lord and ask Him for guidance and perspective, and He'll give it to you, and you will reach your potential in life. How do you feel like this challenge has changed you for the better?
Oh, jeez. Um, I think it's helped me accept that I am human. And I think before I had this kind of like perfectionist idea of where, yeah, I'm human, but I'm so much more than that. Therefore, I have to be perfect and I'm going to do everything perfectly. And I don't know what I had honestly in my head. But, and kind of like this thought again that like, I'm like, I'm the one who helps people. They don't help me.
Yes.
Like, but then having this trial, I feel like it has taught me really how to rely on God, first off. Because none of my doctors have the answer. Um, like they have things that can help mitigate the symptoms, or help me sometimes have a normal day when I would normally have a lethargic day, but it definitely does not disappear. There's some days where the symptoms are just too powerful, or I don't catch them on time, or just like I have to go to work
Mm-hmm.
and I have to still live my life. I gotta make money. I gotta pay for myself. Like these things still have to happen. And so there have been many times when like I'm feeling it right before I go to work that I'm like, okay, Heavenly Father, I just need you to get me to work so that I have my water bottle there, I have my electrolytes, like I can sip on that thing and you and me, pal, together, we're going to do this. And I have. There have been moments where I felt him holding my hand and opening paths for me or getting me, the next few steps so I can sit at a bench or I'm like, okay, there's that big rock. That's as far as I could go, but I need you to get me there. I'm like, okay, let's go. And he does. He shows up and he helps me, and even after the fact, it's not like he's like, okay, I got you to the big rock and leaves. Like I feel him there with me. Just and I've had moments where like I've learned to be more quiet because and set aside time to really ponder because sometimes my friends are going out and doing crazy things. I'm like, I can't come with you. I can't. Like I that will literally induce my symptoms and I'll be screwed for the rest of the week. So then I'm like, what can I do? And I go to a park and I sit on a bench and I just listen and I'm present and I feel him. I feel him so close. And I think that's one thing that this has taught me. God is so much more involved in our life. Jesus Christ is so much more involved in our life than we think. We just need to actually shut up and listen, and maybe we'll see them. Maybe we'll feel them. Like they are ever present. And I think the one thing about my chronic illness is that it has allowed me to sit and just listen. Um, and then I'm able to also help other people understand that as well. And I've had moments where I'm like, just come sit with me on the bench. I can't come with you hiking, but you can come sit with me on the bench. Like, yeah.
That's beautiful. Because life is hard. And the closest we are able to get to the Lord, the more He can help us. The world is loud and it's constantly trying to distract us and pull us from from the Lord. And sometimes these ailments are what bring us to Him and pull us to Him if we'll let them.
Mhm. Yeah.
Who has been there for you in this challenge?
Oh my gosh, so many people. So many people. And I think the thing, because I'm a prideful but, um, I think the biggest thing is that they've been there with me even when I would do things to try and like push them away or try and not allow them to help me. And they would, I remember one of my friends just being like, I was like, I'm supposed to be strong and independent. He's like, this has nothing to do with you being strong or independent. This has everything to do with I love you. So shut up and take it. I'm like, jeez, got it, understood. But oh my gosh. But no, I think like one of the biggest people definitely have been like my parents. My mom has been an absolute saint through all of this. Like they used to live up in Murray, I live in Provo, and I think especially during my depressive period, she let me talk it out all the time. And that was like a broken record. I was saying the same things again and again and again, but she never was like, "Oh my gosh, Sophia, just deal with it." Like she never said anything to me like that or um she just always just let me talk and she validated how hard it was and the days where I was feeling lethargic, she would be like checking up on me and be like, "Hey, how are you doing? Do we need to send, like your sister or your brother to bring me food or something?" And my dad as well, like there was a point in time where I wasn't able to do school or work for a few months. And oh my gosh, that took a shot to my ego.
It
But
would.
yeah, it definitely did. But my dad was like, he would just send me like door dashes of like food and stuff because he knew I would never ask for it. And he was like, I'm just gonna do it. And he's not super the touchy feely type, but
Hmm.
just those little things. And one time he sent me like a whole carton of like ice cream, and that was just so sweet. Just
Oh,
because it wasn't just like the necessities, but it was just like you deserve to treat yourself even though you feel like you don't. Like treat yourself doing it. um
that's awesome.
so yeah, they were fundamental in helping me. I had bishops, Relief Society presidents who also were so great, and they also would let me talk it out and provide support. They like my Relief Society president organized this whole like food thing when I was having like a week where I literally couldn't get up, and she got all the Relief Society sisters together. They made a plan for who was bringing me what.
Oh, that's so
And that was
awesome.
incredible. Um, and then I think as well, like just my friends and my siblings, I remember one of my friends, like he was like, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, "Honestly, I feel like crap today." And he'd be like, "Well, I'm going to go wash my car. So you're coming with me. I'm picking you up in 5 minutes." And I'm like, "Huh?" But he had me come and we washed his car. Like I mostly sat in the car, but he was like, "You need to get out. I'm taking you out." But my friends and my siblings especially would just drag me to things with them that they knew I could technically do by just sitting. And they wouldn't let me mope. They didn't make me feel like a burden that they were including me. Like they wanted me there. And as well on my good days when I was able to go to something by myself and stuff, all my friends were like, "So fair!" Like freak out and stuff, and they would be like so happy that I was there. Like, I just had this community just totally embrace me, and they're like, "We don't care in what situation you are, like, if you're feeling like crap today, if you're gonna be passing out today, if you're feeling awesome, we just want you there. We want you there,
So
and we're
awesome.
gonna include you." So, yeah,
You have good friends. You surround yourself with
I
good
do.
people.
Yeah.
And that's so important. Definitely, especially when you're in, I guess you could call it the pit of despair, when you're in a deep, dark place. Um, that's when you need people the most. And I think it's awesome that your friends have pushed you to get out. You're a very social person, and so that's a need you have, and it's more along the lines of you just not being able, thinking you're not able to get out, and them knowing this is what you need, which
Mhm.
is awesome. And anything that you would add about your relationship with God and Jesus Christ as it's developed through this?
Yeah, I think trying to think. I think through this experience, I have come to understand the atonement a little bit more. Um, like there were times when I was in my pit of despair where I would seriously tell God, like, I'm done. I'm not talking to you anymore. We're done. You're not nice. You're kind of a bully. And by giving me this and, just kind of going off on him. And I didn't. And every time after that, I would be like, okay, sorry, sorry. I know I'm being a jerk. I'm sorry and stuff. And I'd always come back. But I don't know how many times I did that quite a bit over those few months. And the thing is that like I never felt that God was mad at me for doing that. Like I know that like he understood what was going on, the ways I was hurting. And something that I began to understand about the atonement was like it doesn't matter how many times you screw up or you have these angry sessions. I'm here and willing and open to forgive you as long as you show up. Like you just need to turn around and come back. And there were moments where I felt like, especially in my very angry moments, where I felt I didn't feel him withdraw from me, but I just almost felt like this hand on my shoulder or just like a warm touch of like, I'm not moving away from you, no matter how ugly this gets with you, like how much the ugly expressions of emotion that sometimes happen. It's like I'm not like repulsed by you. Like I'm here. I love you, and I'm not moving. The only way you could get away from me is if you literally run away, like, and you decide not to come back. But I will still be at the same spot waiting for you this whole entire time. And once I realized like that God was not moving and he wasn't repulsed by me and all of that, that's when healing began to start happening. That he was okay with me being angry about it, and I could let out all that anger and that despair. I didn't have to hold it in. And I wasn't a bad person um for feeling the way I felt. But as soon as I almost felt like I had permission to let it out, I let it all out. And then I was like, okay. And he's like, okay, feel better now? I'm like, uh-huh, I feel better now. And so then that's when the healing began to start. And that's when I felt like he gave me opportunities to serve and opportunities to see him a little bit more clearly through people and to just almost bring joy back into my life. Because I think if he had tried to introduce it in those moments right then, I would have just probably scoffed or laughed or just been like, okay. Like, I wouldn't have accepted it. But he knows me so well that he knew the perfect timing and he knew that I needed to grieve. And then all of a sudden hope and joy was able to come back into my life again. So I think probably the advice I would give is like, it's okay to grieve about these things. This is hard. No one, especially if you did not grow up with a chronic illness, no one expects to all of a sudden have one and to change your whole life. And it totally feels like you have to reframe who you are, what makes you you, and almost like you have to introduce this whole new person. And honestly, it's kind of the truth. Like, you are a different person after your chronic illness. But when you partner with God, you're going to like that person a lot better than the previous one because he'll take your hurt and make it something that actually heals other. He'll take your anger and make it actually joy. He will take those things and like help you more align with who you want to be. And I feel like that's what he's been doing with me.
Amen. I love everything you just said. And I feel like those thoughts will help a lot of people. Just keep sharing your testimony of these things because this is some powerful stuff. And we're all on our own journeys, but we're also on very similar journeys. Trying to come to know God and despite our challenges in life. Is
Mhm.
there any other advice you'd give before we leave for someone going through a similar challenge to you?
I think in the middle of your crisis or as you're going through this, don't forget to serve others. Like, I feel like that was the thing that helped me have joy or find moments of joy. And even I think when you're right in the middle of that grieving process and finding out you have a chronic illness, those moments of joy are fleeting. But um, I think when you're serving others or doing little things to serve, or or just even realizing like other people have their challenges, and you just sit by someone, you talk to them like someone new that maybe feels alone, like you are doing the Lord's work, and when you're doing the Lord's work, you're closer to him, and the grieving becomes less intense. You're still going to have to go through it, but I can't explain. You just have more of those pockets of like, okay, I feel peace or I feel joy. And maybe it won't be you feel happy, but you'll feel that peace. And I think that is so vital to surviving something like this, especially in the beginning.
You're awesome, Sophia. And through this journey, you've inspired me, truly.
Mm,
I was there at the beginning stages, and I'm so glad that you finally have a diagnosis and it's an inspiration to others that are going through similar challenges. So, thank you for your time and for your story.
mm.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great day, and yeah, we'll see you next time.